be in here. So with that, Madam Clerk, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting for the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority for the December 9th of 2021. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. John McGinnis, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mr. McGinnis. I do appreciate it. All right. Madam Clerk, can I get a, oh, here we are. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call? Here.
Here.
Mr. Chapman?
Here.
Ms. Keel?
Here.
Mr. Murdoch?
Here.
Ms. Silver?
Here.
Ms. Sraza? And Mr. Sturbins?
Here. All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We do have a quorum this morning of the board. Ms. Sraza, I did communicate with her and is unfortunately detained at another board meeting where her board that she represents this board for. So unfortunately she won't be able to make it this morning. All right, with that, we are on to item B. This is public comment. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
I have no public comment signed in at this time, and we did not receive any public comment via email or voicemail as of 4 p.m. yesterday.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And so we have next, this is the approval of the agenda. Before we move through the agenda, we have some changes and some adjustments. There was a unfortunate error in posting with some details in the agenda. So we're going to have to take some things off this morning that we cannot address. Items E1 and E2, we will not be able to address today. Those are the reappointments of the reappointment of the Incline Village Crystal Bay Visitors Bureau board seat, and also the appointment of the NRA board of directors seat as well. However, those two members that are currently in place, their seats are still active through the end of this year, and so no effects will actually take place today. And to that, we will make this, we will move these items and repost this correctly for our February board meeting. And do that. The other things that we will be making is taking item G2 off, the special events funding, and moving that to the February board meeting as well to further discuss with all of the board at that time. So those are the changes that we're going to amend the agenda with this morning. And so with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. I have a motion from Mr. Sturbins. Do I have a second? I have a second from the mayor. I have a motion and a second. Seeing no public comment, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Chapman.
I believe you mentioned February meeting. Is it a February or January meeting that will come back?
Sorry, I'm sorry. January meeting.
Great,
thank you, sir. Thank you for clarification. So the clarification, those would take place on the January meeting. So I have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion by the board, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, and now we're on to item D. This is the approval of the minutes of the November 12th, 2021 Special Board of Directors meeting. Is there any amendments to the minutes that were posted to the agenda? I have a motion from the mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Member Silver. Seeing no further discussion from the board, call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, with that, due to some issues, we are now on to item F1. So, Mr. Harris, please take us into item F1, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. So today's The bulk of today's meeting is really going to be focused around a survey that was done for the community, information that was presented through our partners. We have two special guests here this morning, Paul Ouimet and Greg Oates from Next Factor. They've been hired to help us walk through a brand new 3-year strategic plan, and part of that plan was going through the Destination Next study. And so what they're going to do is they're going to spend time this morning talking about what the Destination Next study is. We're going to talk about what the survey results were from our community, and then we're going to talk about and present for the board just a temperature check from the beginnings of our 3-year strategic plan. Now, we're not asking the board for any decisions. We're not ready to come with hard numbers today. It's really to give us some guidance. The goal is that we're going to come back here in March, and in March we'll present before the board asking for approval on that new 3-year plan. So we've been meeting as a leadership team internally since our last board meeting. We've gone through everything to get us to this point. On strategies helped us as well on the local side. But really the bulk of this is understanding the best of the best, and our folks and our guests that are here today have done these surveys all over the world, and the evaluations all over the world, and the trends of where destinations are going. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we brought them in here so that we could elevate our game and what we're doing. So again, we're only looking for some guidance from the board to make sure we're on the right path. Give us that feedback at the end. The end of the meeting, our team will talk about some of the initiatives that we're going through, and then we can get to that feedback and present. So with that, I want to introduce Mr. Paul Ouimet, who's going to be our facilitator this morning and help us walk us through the process. Paul, welcome, and we'll turn it over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. We can put the slides on. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll move over here so we don't get feedback, hopefully. So thank you for the invitation, and looking forward to your feedback today. I'm joined by Greg Oates in my office, who's a partner with me and the head of our innovation team. Just in terms of our background, I have spent the last 25 years specializing in strategic planning. I had another company prior to Next Factor that was called Intervistas Consulting, did strategic planning in over 75 countries in the world, had offices in Canada, US, Europe, Brazil, and for the last 6 years, I have focused on the tourism industry. We have completed over 60 strategic plans for destination marketing organizations. We just finished Orlando. We're working right now with Phoenix, Dallas, Anaheim. We work with small destinations as well. So we're doing this type of work across North America. And we also do destination master plans, longer term plans, not for the organization, but for the destination, 10-year sort of capital plans on what needs to be done to improve facilities, attractions, infrastructure. And as Charles said, what we're really trying to do here is on this project is to help you put together a new 3-year strategic plan for your CVA. There has been quite a bit of engagement. We've conducted 26 one-on-one interviews with a number of industry and community leaders. We had over 400 respondents to a detailed survey about the area as a destination. We had a pretty intensive management session in October, and since then the management team has been working with your local consultants to try to flesh out some of these elements. So as Charles said, today there's nothing formal being presented. This is just a presentation on some of the current thinking of the management team. This is not our plan. This is really from the management team to get your feedback on where we are at this point. So strategic plan, there's really 6 critical parts: vision, mission, goals, initiatives, targets, and values. We're going to be updating all of those components as part of this plan. And this is the template that we have been using in many organizations. We're finding for most organizations, they're not looking anymore for a 50-page, 100-page report. They want something short, concise. So typically what we're doing now is for each of the goals is to really be clear, and they want something that's transparent and that you can track your progress. So what we do, this is an example, most of our plans, 3-4 goals. All of the specific strategic initiatives should be included, who the lead is within the organization, so there's accountability, timelines, and then targets. Objective, measurable targets so that you can track your performance. So that's what we're what we've been working towards. To the board, do you like that format? This would just be for part of it, but just to lay out sort of the initiatives, the accountability. Some people nodding yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then what we're going to do is we'll produce a one-pager. This is usually what people are really looking for, and that does lay out vision, mission, goals, initiatives, targets, all on one page. So as Charles said, feedback today, and then we will work with the leadership team to basically pull all of the details of the plan together. So what we're going to do today, we've just been asked to sort of condense this down, so we'll shorten this to get you out at to plan for us to be done at 1 o'clock. Is we're going to just do a bit of background. I'm going to talk about the future study that we just did in terms of major trends and strategies in the tourism industry. Greg is going to share with you the feedback from the interviews that we did, and then I'll show you the survey results. So there's some very interesting and important findings there. And then the rest of the time we'll present to you the draft vision and mission, goals and initiatives that have been developed so far by the leadership team. So we'll be asking for your input in each of those sections, and then values. There's been some work done there as well. So that's the plan. Any questions? Is everyone comfortable with what we're recommending for the next 3 hours? Good. So just a couple of things. This is going to be a lot more fun if it's interactive. So I've got this is a large deck. This is going to be available in a PDF, so you will get a copy of this presentation. And if anyone has any questions or comments that applies to the board and to all of the others here in attendance, please jump in. It'll make it a lot easier. We don't have here. Hi, John. Can you see those, or would it be good to try to move some of the chairs closer to one of them? Can you see? Are you all right? Okay, so let me then start with the background. So this is Destination Next is a project that we started about 7 years ago. There's two parts to it. There's a future study looking at what are the trends and strategies for destination marketing organizations. We've done these studies every 2 years. This year we released our most recent one in July, the most important one by far, obviously, with what's happened during the last 2 years. But the second piece is we built a model to assess destinations. And this was the reason why I left my old consulting company to start Next Factor. And we've done assessments. By the end of the year, we will have assessed over 300 destinations around the world. So we've gotten a lot of information about sort of what different cities, towns are doing around the world in tourism, economic development. So the future study, we started this project at the beginning of the year. We did over 200 interviews with all of the disruptors, technology companies, industry, community, government organizations. We had a panel of 25 different meeting planners, event organizers. And we came up with a list of 100 trends that we thought could have an impact on our industry. And then we put together a list of 80 strategies, 80 specific things you could do as an organization. We did a survey in the spring. This was the biggest survey ever done in the DMO space. Over 700 responses from 52 countries. So we had input from all of the leading tourism organizations from around the world. 60% of the responses were from the US, so this is still steeped in US wisdom and tradition. In terms of the top trends, and I know you're not going to be able to read this, but I only wanted to just say that when we look at the trends, I want to focus on just a few of them, but there's some here that are obvious. The demand for outdoor experiences has skyrocketed. The bar for health and safety has really, those are major top of mind issues for visitors. But there's 4 that I just want to mention here. And the first one, and this was really interesting, is of the 100 trends, the number 1 rated trend, most important trend, was a recognition that in the next few years, the alignment of industry, government, and community leaders and organizations was going to be key to developing your destination and promoting it. Number 1, more important than anything on social media, on disruption. And that was universal, really around the world. So very, very significant. The second thing was, this is a trend that has been sort of near the top every year, every 2 years, is visitors are continuing to look for authentic, unique travel experiences. It's really about experiences to a significant degree. So this is, in terms of product development, is to continuing to push the envelope to improve the destination from an experience perspective. And I want to show you, this is a great example of an initiative that a city did. This is in Montreal, that was led by Tourism Montreal. And about 6 years ago, they did a program called Illuminations. And this was to celebrate the 350th anniversary of Montreal. And what they did was 3 parts to it. They did all of their bridges, they put LED projection laser lights on them. So you could have basically like an Olympic opening ceremony just with a flick of the switch. They took their cathedral downtown, one of their most sacred sites, and put this phenomenal light show that was available. There was lineups around an entire city block pretty much all through the year to see it. But the third part is a project called Memoir. And this was an LED projection experience that they created. They created 25 vignettes, videos of 45-second to a minute videos depicting the history of Montreal, sports legends, the architects of the city, leadership, and basically project various videos on all of the buildings in all of Old Montreal. This is a big area. This is probably more than 6 square blocks of space. So I just want to share with you this experience. Look at the partners coming up. Look at the companies and organizations that put that on. Now, Memoir completely transformed Montreal's downtown. A couple of years after this started, Watkins does a top 25 list of the top meetings destinations in North America. Montreal used to be way down. It is now, it's surged because of things like this, bold, innovative development that actually is now ranked one of the top meetings destinations in North America. So these things are, and great alignment, everyone sort of having to work together to deliver it. The other significant trend is, we talk about experiences, is most people have been cooped up for the last 2 years and have had lots of time to reflect on their lives. And there's a major appetite right now for visitors to seek personal well-being. We call it purposeful travel. Physical well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being. This is a significant driver of tourism right now. I've had discussions with some about, opportunities here for spas, for all sorts of life coaching. Those are specific major opportunities to capitalize on what visitors are really looking for now, in addition to traditional trends. And then finally, the last one is on the business event side. Customers, event organizers, meeting planners have been telling us they're really looking for a very different type of relationship with their CVA, with their Visitor and Convention Bureau. It's not about just room nights and meeting space anymore. They want a partnership in terms of trying to help promote legacy benefits, working to get corporate sponsorships, participation, working with you've got a great economic development group here. Those types of synergies, working with universities. So that's a major shift. It's a big opportunity as well if you can harness all of those people together. When we look at strategies, I just want to touch on a few here. The first one is the most important strategy is a recognition that organizations should be focusing and really spending a significant amount of their resources and attention on content creation and dissemination strategies. This is really on the internet, in the digital space. One of the most obvious major impacts of COVID-19 has been online commerce has been accelerated by about 5 years. So we've seen a major sort of uptick in sort of digital activity. I just want to share with you a couple of numbers that people find interesting. Every minute of every day, we've got right now over 4 million people who are doing searches on Google, 6 million people are shopping on Amazon, 3.5 million people are watching YouTube videos. The most important number up there is YouTube. Recall rates for YouTube for video is significantly higher than looking at reading, articles or looking at pictures. The other piece that's very significant today, and this again is something to really be thinking about here, this beautiful area, is many DMOs have determined that there's lots of resort cities, there's lots of ski resorts, there's lots of beach resort areas, that today to differentiate your brand, a lot of it should be centered around the community's goals, creative energy, the values, sort of the buzz of the community, and that's a significant shift in sort of strategy. And then the other one is to do a better job of integrating tourism, economic development, and talent attraction. What we've seen, obviously, with the growth in remote working, all the job losses and relocations, this is really a time to be taking advantage of working together to promote the city, the region, not just as a place to work or to visit, but also to live, work, and play. So that's significant. The other critical piece here is from a talent attraction piece, the single biggest issue that we're seeing right now in the industry is workforce. I see signs everywhere, valet service not available, all sorts of services traditionally available. We just don't have the workers. We've got short and long-term problems dealing with this. So this is very, very significant challenge that has to be addressed by DMOs. I'm just going to, one area that we really checked, and sorry if this is small for some of you, we asked all of these organizations, what are the most important roles of the organization today? And the two most important roles, marketing and brand management, and there was, advocacy, being an information resource, were also very important. But we said, in 3 years' time, what should be the most important roles? And marketing and brand management still at the top, but the two that really moved up were destination and product development, just basically things like I just talked about, and then also data research and business intelligence. A lot of organizations, and I know some of the bigger, resorts, some of the bigger players have access to tremendous amounts of information, but a lot of other partners are looking for better data, business intelligence, forward-looking sort of booking patterns as part of that. So that's a new area that many organizations are looking at. And then finally, in terms of KPIs, key performance indicators, most DMOs in the past have been focused on two areas: economic impact, number of visitors, economic impact, or hotel performance metrics, RevPAR, occupancy rates. When we ask them to look into the future, those are still important, but other areas now that are being looked at is visitor satisfaction. Are your visitors, once they come here, are they happy with the experience? Are they, going to be net promoters for the destination? And then also resident sentiment. So some big shifts in all of these areas. Now, so where we got to at the end of the study is when we looked at all of the interviews and the data, we believe that today, for the next few years, destination marketing organizations should really be focusing on three major transformational opportunities. The first one is destination alignment, obviously, just based on what I've just said. It's really making sure that everyone is working together to build a brand, to optimize the destination from an experience perspective. The second area is sustainable development. All of the research with visitors, when we look at, especially from our younger travelers, there's a lot of discussion right now and a lot of focus on sustainable practices. And I think in the US, Canada, we've talked the talk for a long time. I think there's a growing expectation to walk the walk. So there's a number of things that need to be done here, really from an environmental, economic, and social perspective. This is not just green initiatives. We need all sorts of economic initiatives as well.
Can you expand on the product development again?
On the
Product development?
Yeah, product development. So one of the things that's happened is many DMOs have recognized that the job of sort of the new age destination marketing organization is really more than just sales and marketing. It's you have to play a role. You're not the developer for new hotels or for attractions, but to be a catalyst, to be working with other agencies to address some of this stuff. So that's really product development. So the DMO now, the M isn't really a destination marketing organization anymore. They really refer to them as destination management organizations. And that's not to say sales and marketing is still the most important, but some of these other pieces are really important as well. So many organizations have got, initiatives that they're leading around, workforce or product development. Some DMOs now have got a chief investment officer that's working with hotel developers, to try to attract different groups. So that's a big shift. And then finally, the last one is values-based marketing. And that's, I'm going to just close this future study presentation. I'm going to just give you an example of one here. I'm going to skip over a bunch of slides on strategy. I want to get us into, it'll be in the deck, but these are some case studies. These are case studies. I want to, just for the interest of time here, I'm going to just end with an example. So this is quite a relevant example for here. This is a campaign that we love from Jackson Hole. This is their Fearless Females campaign. So basically, the pitch here and sort of the positioning is that if you go to Jackson Hole, you're going to meet some really interesting people.
Dancing with the demons to the beating thunder on a desert road. Harrowing the night, I'm sowing footprints in the soil. I'm the keeper of the treasure, hunted by every man's son. Casting shadows on the skeletons of everything I've done.
So what's interesting about this campaign is that video still shows the skiing, the rafting, the biking opportunities. But what they've done is they've added that sort of subtle but very important messaging about sort of the community values, the people. And that's what, in a lot of the market research right now, that's what is going to resonate with potential visitors moving forward. So as you strive to sort of expand your visitor base, this is a pretty significant consideration. So any questions on the future study? I'm going to, I had some case studies, but I'd rather get into sort of some more meaningful discussion here. Questions?
Yeah, I've got one,
Andy?
thank you. Looking at the trends and the strategies, many of the destinations and DMOs are starting to lean in on the stewardship side, sustainability. I see that come out in the transformable change component. And that kind of goes along with residential sentiment and residents really finding their voice over these last 2 years in some of our destinations. Where do you think in some of those strategies and trends is the stewardship kind of pillar? You know, I see it in a few places, but it's really not called out or wasn't called out.
Yeah, good point. So that is becoming a much more significant component. So a lot of destinations now are doing more master planning work, destination master plans, stewardship plans. We're talking right now with the town of Vail to do a master plan there. There's Breckenridge. Many places have done plans where they're trying to address a number of issues to sort of mitigate the negative impacts on residents. Many times what we see for resident impact, it really deals around sort of traffic congestion, parking, accessibility to, to some of your facilities. I did some work a couple years ago in Asheville, which is a major tourism destination, and residents, their biggest issue was they couldn't get reservations at the local restaurants. They have a lot of great restaurants. People would go there Thursday to Sunday. So they just did a very simple thing that all the restaurants committed a certain % of their seats every weekend to locals. So things like that can have a big impact. Educational programs for visitors in terms of if you're on a hiking trail, biking trail, you know, what not to do with plastic or, you know, litter, fires, those types of things. Many organizations are doing some of those types of campaigns as well.
Yeah, and I would encourage, as we look at how we build this out, parts of this destination are going through that pretty intensively right now from a standpoint of impacts. Primarily the lake, we all know it has happened up there over the last couple of years, or the last 18 months or so. So as we look at, and then probably less impactful here in the Meadows side of the destination. So something to consider on how we are going to build
One good
plans.
campaign to look at is Monterey, California. They did a campaign called Sustainable Moments. This was a few years ago, and it's really geared towards educating visitors on responsible behavior. And they're like you, they're having to protect a number of, I mean, you've got some of the best outdoor recreation areas. You don't want visitors to, you know, to destroy that capability. So that's the situation there. Thank you. Anything else? So the deck will be available, all of the pieces. I'm going to turn it over to Greg to talk about the interviews.
Good morning, everyone. So in August, we came up to Reno and we interviewed 26 different community and industry stakeholders to get a better understanding and more local context into some of the opportunities and issues in Reno Sparks. We asked everyone the same three questions. What are the biggest, most significant opportunities for the destination? What are the major issues and challenges you see in the destination? And we're looking at a 3-year period here in terms of scope. And then what do you feel are the most important priorities for Reno Sparks CVA within the context of those opportunities and challenges? So I'm just going to go over sort of the key highlights from those three questions. And this time we've bucketed them into where there was a lot of conversation around certain themes, as well as we included some where there were not as many people talking about them, but we felt they were still important to include in this deck. In terms of overall opportunities, a lot of talk about strong recovery. You've had some of the best months in this year overall in terms of bed tax and visitor volumes. So to continue to build on that, you have a lot of new visitors that have come in, especially from the West Coast, and to capitalize on that and maintain that recovery. Also, as Paul mentioned, demand for outdoor recreation. Reno, Tahoe, the overall area has some of the country's most amazing outdoor recreation opportunities. So to build on that and leverage that significant increase in demand, which we expect to stay long after the pandemic. A lot of talk about economic development and growth of new key sectors and all of the tech companies that are coming in from California and elsewhere, and suddenly this national attention on Northern Nevada as a key player in advanced industries, so to build on that. The improved brand, this idea of more can be done to continue to enhance the brand based on all of the success you are seeing, to continue to add layers and delineate that story more effective, to update, make it more relevant for the modern consumer based on all those trends and strategies that Paul showed. So opportunity there. And then to continue to look at developing and expanding business events and major festivals, because they've been successful for the area, and look at how to do that different times of year and drive the volumes and need periods, shoulder seasons, midweek, etc. And then in terms of some of the less mentioned responses, just to continue to look at the West Coast drive market and really start looking at arts and culture, food and beverage, and collaborating with the universities and the creative energy there to continue to evolve. So that was the opportunities. In terms of challenges, issues, the biggest themes that we heard continually was air service. While air service has actually been very good, your 2020 numbers and 2021 numbers at least are commensurate with 2019 in some cases. There's a lot of investment coming up in the airport, but to continue to look at how to expand that more national markets and opening up into Canada and things like that, that is definitely something that needs to be looked at. That came up over and over. Probably the number one, though, comment across all of the interviews was downtown and homelessness, and the idea of, we talked earlier about destination alignment and marrying the public, private, and civic sectors to work together to drive overall destination performance. This is exactly what we're talking about here in terms of redeveloping downtown, addressing homelessness. There's a lot that's already happening there, of course, but that came up more than anything else from the 26 interviews we did in terms of biggest challenges for the area. Workforce development, childcare, affordable housing, this is national. Destinations with a strong visitor economy are all dealing with these labor shortages and looking at how to address and support more affordable housing, looking at how to develop childcare initiatives in the region to support workforce development. Another key theme that came up, I was surprised at how much this came up, was the lack of board alignment. And in any destination, you have politics, personalities, power structures, right, opposing agendas and priorities. But for the stakeholders we talked to, the lack of how the board agrees on a long-term vision came up probably more than we've seen in any other destination. Brand beyond gaming, just to look at promoting the region beyond. That's not to say to replace in any way, but just to build on the success of the gaming infrastructure here and to elevate the brand and expand that. And then the last one, mobility access, public transportation. This is another theme that we see and talk about in pretty much every destination, and really connecting the different areas, midtown, downtown, this area, and making it easier for more people to get from place to place. We're really removing that friction from how the customer, the visitor, wants to navigate the destination. Then a little bit less shared, but that lack of a shared long-term vision among elected industry and community leaders, an unwillingness at times to update local zoning and housing regulations. That speaks to the affordable housing, approachable housing themes. Again, lack of support for local arts, culture, and entertainment. And it's been brought up a few times that the gaming community perhaps is not willing to evolve and diversify. Las Vegas was used as an example, but here we're talking about diversifying the economy, diversifying the brand, diversifying the reputation of the destination on a national scale. Again, that wasn't talked about a lot, but it was brought up. And then in terms of what stakeholders felt were the most important priorities for this organization, common themes were destination alignment. Absolutely. It keeps coming back to this over and over, and again, this is a theme nationwide, really globally, but how does industry, government, and community leaders, how do all of you work together to really pool efforts, resources, streamline initiatives to really have that community first, destination first perspective to continue to drive performance in the area. Board alignment, this clearly is something for the organization to look at, address, and to continue to work toward in terms of overall how the board works together and coming together around a community first perspective. Leadership in the community, so having a leadership role, not just in terms of sales and marketing, as Paul was saying, but how can the organization further support different types of community organizations. Community support, getting the community to really understand what it is that this organization does, support what it does, and ultimately help it do what it does in terms of being advocates for the organization. Industry fragmentation, more can be done for the different partners throughout the visitor industry here to work together to share data, share business intelligence, and really empower everyone moving forward. And then again, that expanded storytelling beyond gaming, which was mentioned a few times. A few other responses, actually quite a few people talked about greater collaboration with the lake and positioning this as a dual destination, expanding marketing nationally, so opening up and expanding how this organization speaks to the country with the idea of opening up new source markets, which ultimately leads to air service development, and then really just have taken a harder look at what the actual Reno brand is and trying to diversify that. So that is a very quick overview of all the community engagement. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me just wrap up. Now, the other thing that's important here, this feedback was that's not our takeaways. That's what we heard from locals, you know, on all of these pieces. So let me just now talk about Destination Next survey. So the model that I built 6 years ago in all of the research is we believe that for every destination, there's 2 success drivers. The first one is how strong your destination is from a product perspective. So weak destinations to the left, strong destinations to the right. But equally important is how much destination alignment, how much community support buy-in there is for tourism. Weak alignment at the bottom, strong alignment at the top. And what's interesting is when you intersect those 2 success drivers, you end up with 4 completely different scenarios that destinations, communities find themselves in. Everybody wants to be a trailblazer. Strong destination, great community support and engagement. Of the 250 plus destinations, 40% have been in the trailblazer category. So most destinations are not in that sort of privileged area. But what we've done is when we first introduced this model, we were asked by Destinations International to build a model to actually assess destination strength and destination alignment. So we have 12 variables that looked at destination strength. That includes your attractions, accommodation, meetings, all of the infrastructure areas. And then 12 other variables looking at alignment: government, business, community support, governance, workforce, hospitality, culture. We've added variables this summer around equity, diversity, inclusion, sustainability, and emergency preparedness, just given how critical those issues are in the model right at this point. So this was a survey that was done of key industry people here, all the community leaders, and the market, some of your customers. Okay, so this is a perception study based on all of these people. So in terms of your results, we had over 400 people responded to the survey. What was interesting is 43% were customers of yours, event planners, meeting organizers. 30% were industry partners, and then we had some people from the CVA team. We had 2 board members who responded, and some government leaders as well. So overall, you're just below the trailblazer category, officially in the mountaineer category. So what this means is that you have really good scores in terms of destination strength. You're above sort of the averages that we're seeing for destination strength, but below, slightly below on destination alignment. So I don't think that should be a surprise based on sort of just even the discussions we've just had in terms of some of the opportunities, and certainly when you look at your assets. What was really interesting here is the different stakeholder groups are very different. And sorry if I ran over here, but I just want to show this to you. So that's your average. Your customers actually rated the destination higher. This is a good thing. That the customers who actually took the time to respond to this survey, they actually have a very positive perception. They think you're a strong trailblazer. The board members, a much lower position. So that's where, again, this lack of alignment. Now, normally what we want to see is sort of closer, closer perceptions by different groups. We actually have had some destinations where we've had different groups in each of the 4 quadrants. Now that's where in situations sometimes with over tourism, where you've got, some people are hearing complaints all the time, others, believe it's the greatest destination. So that's something to be thinking about, as Greg just mentioned, I think is something to see. John? Well, it's not I don't think, yeah. I mean, I think, and we're not saying anything here to be sort of disrespectful. It's just see for opportunities in terms of what could potentially be done, to bring, groups, individuals more closely together. Let me just say one thing that I have found in sort of all of the organizations that I've worked on, and I've looked at sort of the last strategic plan. You've done some really good work here. The thing that I have found is to bring groups together, to get the excitement, to increase the alignment. It's really to find a couple of important projects that everyone would rally around. It's not about trying to come out of a plan with 28 initiatives. That's really that would be probably the single biggest advice and sort of takeaway from what we've seen and in the discussions is that's how you build more alignment, is to sort of figure out what are those few big things that need to be done that will, potentially improve the alignment and sort of take the destination to the next level. That's really, I think, a critical part of this initiative from my perspective. Yeah, and that's why, like sometimes we see the staff, the board, they know more of the sort of the flaws than some of the others. So they'll be harder on themselves.
Shannon, can you talk into the microphone?
Yeah.
Can you talk in the mic? People can't.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'd rather have it this way than have the board feel like we're amazing and our customers and the industry think that we're not. So
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we don't have work to do, but I think this means that we're hard on ourselves and we have high standards.
Yeah.
I just wanted to drill down a little more in relation to Mr. Farahi's comment. When you talk about board alignment, does that mean composition of the board? Does that mean the number of people on the board? Does that mean the positions they hold? I mean, what should we as board members take to be a deeper meaning relative to board alignment?
Yeah, from this assessment, I don't think it's not clear if it's the board composition, the number. I think it's more about just quite different perceptions from different people around the table. Now, you are a very complex destination in terms of you have different cities, the counties. You've got different types of key stakeholders here. So this is a more difficult sort of market to bring everyone together with a common perspective because you've got such different types of players. But that's...
Yeah, and Paul, and one of the things I would say is that's part of what we'd like your temperature check today when we go through that strategic plan is how do we improve that board alignment, right? That's one of the goals that we want to get to. We don't have that roadmap yet, but it's how do we get to that so that there is for the community.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but I'm trying to envision what it would look like if we had perfect board alignment. I mean, that would be the perception of the public. That would be that the public thinks well of the board members. I mean, I'm really having difficulty understanding. Or is it our internal sense of one another, or if we're representing our constituents correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be likely a combination of all of those things in terms of perceptions being more unified, in terms of really a common sort of not just understanding but agreement on what are the really critical priorities for this organization moving forward and sort of strategies to address that. That's really a critical piece. A lot of boards right now are sort of preoccupied with diversity, that whole piece. We didn't hear a lot of that here, so I think it's more about dealing with some of that just agreement on sort of key sort of priorities for the organization. Some of that's around the roles of the organization, and mandate, but really buy-in to that. And, many organizations, you're not alone here, trying to, continue to work more closely with economic development, with arts, cultural organizations. I really believe you've got tremendous opportunities here to do more events. Now, events, you can't do those on your own. I mean, I think you've got already some events you can, leverage, take to another sort of, to a higher level. So those types of things are pretty critical. I'll give you one example, though, of a very simple thing that was done in Newport Beach. And this was a governance shift in terms of, in Newport, they had a problem with the police chief. And the police chief was always complaining in every news conference that it was really visitors who were causing all the problems in Newport Beach, that their fine residents were not doing anything bad. And what they ended up doing in Newport is they actually added the police chief to the board. And what happened is he is now the biggest booster of the community. The police are involved in all sorts of initiatives, traffic control, all of the things, completely shifted. And just that little change of just having sort of, that new perspective and having that chief exposed to some of the things. He's now on the executive committee of the Newport Beach and Company organization. So, there's proactive things that could be done potentially to, improve alignment and participation.
Let me see. Am I on?
Is that on?
Is that on? It feels like it's not. So when you say finding key to improving our alignment of our board, finding something that we are all passionate about and on, to working together towards those same goals, obviously makes sense that people would work better together. And is that kind of what we're looking at with this new strategic plan? Really the goal of getting excited to set, a 3-year plan that's new, that is current to our, where we are right now, where we are post-COVID, where we are in this economy, that this strategic plan can give us the opportunity to really all focus together on something we all obviously agree with and buy into, because not only we're part of developing that strategic plan, but it's also as we look at this destination and the opportunities that we have, we'll kind of the goal is to bring the whole board together in that, on that journey as we move forward. I mean, is that really kind of an opportunity?
That's certainly part of it. I mean, the board's only one part of it, right? The community, the staff, we, as an RSCVA, we've got work to do to make sure that we're aligned from a staff perspective and how we push that out in terms of messaging. But yeah, overall, I think that's kind of where we're headed, and that's the feedback that we're looking for today.
Yeah. Agreed. Any other questions here?
Yeah, maybe to put a little perspective on this, I know you deal with a lot of different clients, or obviously different personalities. On average, where do the consumers and the board generally fall?
So that's a great question. So normally what we find is that the DMO, so the CVA board and staff are usually very close to where customers are, because they talk to one another a lot, they get feedback about the destination. And where we see the biggest swings, sort of the extremes, are community groups, community and government. Because in some cities, you have government leaders who believe this is the best damn, beach town in the entire world. They don't think there's any competition, and it's sort of there. And then you have industry that is sort of in a crisis mode. So those are the booster types of organization, and those can be a big swing to up into the trailblazer. Other communities, the government officials, they're hearing every Monday morning they get all of the complaints about, traffic congestion and, all sorts of parties and all things. So then they can have a negative perception. So generally what we see on this is if there's going to be a difference, it's usually community or sort of government that are on the extremes, and the industry people more to the middle. So this is a quite unusual to have customers. Now this is a good issue to have. So that means that when they're coming here, the players here are actually doing a good job of delivering, good experiences. This is a real positive here. Don't take this is that's a good takeaway.
Paul, Mr. Farahi, if I can just jump in here really quick. For those of you, and we do want to make this an interactive session so everybody can participate. I'd ask if you want to participate and ask a question, if you could come up to the microphone and just state your name for the record. This is still due to open meeting law. We've got to do that. John, you know the good work, and Mr. McGinnis, you're in trouble, so that's all right. I'll punish you later. But John, Go
yes,
ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, the board. Paul, this is very interesting what you have discovered, that our guests have a more positive view of our destination than we do. And you said a word, you said we should have more events here. Are you going to be explaining what type of events, why should we have more events? Of course, I have my own ideas, but are you going to be talking about expanding on that point?
Yeah, it'll be talked about later. About sort of that's one of the initiatives that's proposed is to look at that. I believe and I don't want to steal the thunder from the management team for events. Events are very powerful to pursue from two perspectives. One is they're one of the best ways to deal with seasonality. I mean, if you obviously want to pick events not in your peak seasons, but in sort of shoulder seasons. So that's a win-win for everybody. And then the second one is events can have a major impact on your brand. So you can, everyone talks about, what South by Southwest did for Austin, what, the Coachella Music Festival did for Palm Springs, Burning Man. You look at just in, different places, the impact. So, I believe that that's a big opportunity. There was a lot of excitement, in talking to people in the interviews about this as well.
And Mr. Farahi, one of the things that we're going to do is when we get to the staff portion of that, certainly we're doubling down on what it means with special events for the team and how we move that forward. Again, not a lot of details today, but the concept of what special events means to this destination for us moving forward within that 3-year strategic plan is at the core.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so there's that's the piece. Now I just want to touch on a couple. So on destination strength, these are the 12 variables. I know you may not be able to see this, but for most of the variables, if you have green here, these are your scores compared to industry averages. If you have green, you're outperforming. So here you've got most of them, you're in pretty good shape. If you have red, you're underperforming. So just a couple of areas: health and safety, sporting events. When we look at your high scores, outdoor recreation, attractions and experiences, events and festivals, dining, shopping, accommodation. Those are the great ones to have high scores. These are all drivers of visitation. Okay? Your lowest scores are around health and safety, sporting events, local mobility, destination access, communication infrastructure. These are more sort of infrastructure-related components. So when we drill down to this, for each of those variables, we have a number of statements that we sort of ask. So health and safety is not just about complying with public health. You're already a GBAC certified. You've done a lot there. You get high scores. Low scores: homelessness, downtown, metro areas being known as cleanliness, and safe from crime. So those are the scores that are lower here that are issues. Now that's not just a visitation issue. That's sort of a community issue. We are finding low scores in many destinations. This has been a really, discouraging sort of part of our assessments, is just how many cities, communities are struggling with homelessness right now, with crime, with perceptions around crime. There's a big difference there, and cleanliness. On sporting events, these are a little bit lower scores in terms of having financial support available, and facilities and venues to host major sporting events, probably not as big a deal. And then mobility and access. These are sort of around walkability, public transportation, road capacity. Those are lower scores. This, for many destinations, this again is pretty consistent with what we're finding. There's a major sort of infrastructure issue for significant parts of the U.S. But that's what we saw on that side. On the alignment side, hospitality culture, great score, and then lower scores just in a couple. So you're just slightly below here, the sort of the destination alignment. But hospitality culture, alignment with economic development, EDI, regional cooperation, sustainability, good scores. Where your scores are the lowest, workforce, dramatically low. This is on a scale of 1 to 5. That's under 3 in terms of an average. Organization, governance, emergency preparedness would be the biggest areas. So workforce, again, we could spend a whole day on this, but this is really about affordable housing. You know all this. Affordable housing, daycare, public transportation are really the big 3 that have to be addressed to deal with the workforce shortage. And then on the governance side, again, the governance structure, the board is, the DMO is diverse in board and organization, the 2 lowest areas. Emergency preparedness, these are pretty typical scores compared to what we've seen in other places. But those are sort of the, that's a review of this. This is there's a lot of research that's here. Today I've just touched on sort of the highlights. There's a full deck that drills into a number of areas. But overall, you've got a good score for destination strength, a really good score. You have, I think, still opportunities to, even continue to build that. The way to build destination strength, though, is I think, to work on some of those alignment issues, as we've talked about quite a bit, will help this along. So that's really where we are. Any other questions or comments? Okay, do we need a bio break, or should we just continue to move on? Let's do a 10-minute break.
All right, we'll be in recess for 10 minutes, and we'll be back at 11:20. I'm sorry, 11:30. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can grab everybody, grab their seats. In the essence of time, you know, I want to call us back to session, and I do appreciate what Destination Next has been as putting together today. However, we are going to start experiencing quorum issues here pretty quickly on this board meeting. So I'm going to have Paul and his team and Charles kind of jump ahead here and kind of explain what the next steps are about what we should do, and then we're going to try to move on. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Harris to kind of outline the next steps for us now that we've kind of gone through the initial presentation of the discussion and the outcomes and the reception from the questionnaire. So with that, Mr. Harris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the great information that we had from Paul and Greg helps to give us a basis of where we are. I think we're going to hit pause on that right now and move on. We're going to reconvene when we have the full board participation to go into that mission, vision, values at a later time, making sure that all the board members are here. We will come back and invite the public back to enjoy the presentation and go through that. We're going to jump ahead per the chair's agenda that we have to Christina Ernie, who's going to give us a marketing update. And we will notify everybody when we have the next scheduled meeting when we can tackle the rest of these topics that need the time and attention to be able to move forward and get that feedback back from the board.
And thank you, Mr. Harris. I do appreciate I do want to say thank you to the general public that have come today. And so what's going to happen is now that we've got the outcome and the reception of the data from Destination Next, we'll be able to sit down with the executive team and put together a nice summary so that when we do bring this back for discussion, we will notify the public so that we can have more of a more interactive discussion versus more of the board meeting setting, so that this can be more of a productive, because we really do want the input of the general public for the strategic plan and the update, and this is essential with that. So with that, we'll close this item for today. Thank you, Paul and team, for coming this morning to provide us that initial. And I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Christina Ernie for item G1. This is her marketing update.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yes.
When would be that meeting?
It,
we came here today to hear the whole presentation, so.
Mr. Frahi, that will probably be in the first couple months of next year, so either January or February. So we are going to work with Paul and his team to schedule that, and we will get you out that notice as soon as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Ernie.
I'll come up here. So I think this is on, yeah? Okay. So you guys can all see me. Hi, I'm Christina Ernie, your Vice President of Marketing here at Reno Tahoe. And I'm looking forward to providing you guys all with an update on the following initiatives the marketing department has been working on this past fiscal year with the following agenda. I'm going to kick it off with some of the research, going over what that has told us, show some of the imagery from a recent photo shoot, some new campaign creative. I'll touch on our media plans, both leisure and MNC with sports, followed by some influencer activations that I'm so excited to share with you. One of them has been on pause for nearly 2 years now, since before the pandemic, and we finally launched it this week. I'm so excited to show you those videos. And then lastly, Ben will go over some of our communications updates. And I also just want to call out that the imagery throughout this presentation was captured at our recent photo shoot with BVK over the summer. I just want to let you know that we heard you. Our featured talent is older. We wanted to make them more affluent, and that's something that we are really looking to go forward with in our strategic plan that we didn't get to touch on, but I'll kind of highlight on some of that in this presentation. And then we're looking to go over an audience that is more capable of spending more and making a bigger impact in our community. So our most recent, there we go, visitor profile study was conducted in 2019. Most of our research was paused over the pandemic just because of cuts. But I just want to assure you all that we are positioned to restart our research here quickly in 2022, which, yes, that's crazy. It'll be here in just a couple of weeks. Just a few call outs here from our visitor profile study. The average age is 41 years old, getting younger over time. We're also getting more diverse over time, and increasingly over time, more people are traveling with children. From an industry standpoint, you know, we're seeing that travelers who want to feel a deeper connection with their travel experiences. 82% are looking for experiences that give them a new perspective on the world. 71%, there we are, nope. Sorry, from a meeting standpoint, 71% say that the outside activities of a meeting venue has increased in importance while hosting a meeting or convention. 93% say that the destination's culture highlights are an important piece of making a decision on where they host their meeting. Based on all of this research, BVK has helped us come up with personas. Over here, we've come up with someone who is progressive, ambitious, active, maybe a risk taker. There's someone who enjoys nightlife, but they also enjoy tech, reading, travel, the outdoors, and someone who is also environmentally minded, as we're seeing that is increasingly becoming a new trend in the travel space. So we look at all of the elements of the outline persona's life. What lifestyles do they like to live? What media are they engaged with? What products and brands do they most likely buy? So we take all those attributes, and we have identified 4 audience segments using Halexa. This is a new way of thinking, sort of, with target audience segments. So the 4 that we've come up with, one is the adrenaline adventurer. This is your outdoor enthusiast. This is your gamer, gambler. This is your party goer. The mindful mom, she seeks wellness and connection. She lives a healthy, active lifestyle with her husband and the kids. They are all active. The intellectual activist, this is your business person, plans for achievement. They are intellectually curious, they're explorers. And then lastly, we have our digital junkie. Again, this is also a gamer, and they also geek out on arts and film and kind of have that persona. So now that we know who we're going after, we did a new content shoot this summer, as I briefly mentioned, with BVK. It was a 3-day shoot over the summer, and yes, in 3 days, we covered the Sparks Marina, Midtown District, 4th Street, Neon Line, Wells Avenue, Truckee River Whitewater Park, Wingfield Park, Mount Rose Meadows, and Crystal Bay. Crazy we can go to all in 3 days, but we really wanted to highlight the last shoot that we have done as an organization with BVK was actually in 2018. As we all know, there's been so much redevelopment all throughout the region. We have all these new districts, these new lines, all of the new development down in Midtown, and we really needed to update our imagery to capture all of those changing developments all throughout our region. Now, I do not like using models for photo shoots. Those of you who have been on the board since 2018 already know this about me. We can get way more value out of using content creators, social media influencers, people who are authentically engaged in the activities we feature. I strongly believe that the images really come to life when you can see the passion of those who are doing those activities authentically, engaging with like-minded people. And plus, there is major added value in using these types of people. They all have huge social media followings, and putting them can greatly extend our reach, all at no additional cost. I don't pay any of these influencers to post when they are here doing this for us, not a dime, and that's purposeful. I want them to genuinely fall in love with the region. I want them to genuinely want to promote the region, be a believer in that they are now the face of this region, and that is exactly what happened. We had 7 influencers who posted over 217 stories and posts. They garnered over 7,000 engagements, and that's 890,000 impressions, all at no cost. They made lifelong friends. I've seen some of them hanging out even past the shoot now that this brought them all together. I'm super excited about that. Here's some of their static posts that they even did on their social channels. So next, I just want to bring you to highlight some of the images that we did capture. You kind of heard Destinations Next talk about wellness and having that be a focus of travelers moving forward. So at Wingfield Park, we did some yoga. We went to the Sparks Marina, went to the Water Bar Lighthouse Coffee. I'm so thankful for Tom at Sparks Water Bar. It wasn't open when we did this shoot, and I pretty much just begged him to let us get in and let us do the shoot, because I didn't want to miss that opportunity. I'm so grateful that he let us do it. We went to the Truckee River. We all know that that's a key piece of our region. We did tubing. We all know how growing in popularity that has been. And just some leisure activities down along the river. Midtown and Wells Avenue, some lifestyle shots, dining. You'll notice a lot of these shots are outdoors. We're seeing in travel trends that travelers are prioritizing outdoor destinations who offer outdoor amenities. It might not be the only thing they do while they're here, but it's something that's going to drive them to come here, seeing that there are options. Having those fire pits, even though we're a winter destination, we have a winter here, it might be snowing currently, that we do have places that people can still enjoy the outdoors and feel safe. We went up to Mount Rose Meadows, as I mentioned. We dialed back hiking. It's a little more of leisure hiking is what we did up there. You can see they're on the boardwalks together. We also went to Crystal Bay, highlighted some hiking up there. Again, these are influencers that we're using. Sally up on the top left, she is probably sponsored by pretty much every outdoor brand you can think of. She's known in that industry. She's seen all across their advertisements, and she's someone who is known. So having her in our content and then actively promoting on her social media, even wearing some of the pieces. She was wearing some like Eddie Bauer gear and then posted it on our page, on her page, tagging Eddie Bauer, and we're now part of that brand conversation. Again, no additional cost. And of course, we could also, we couldn't go without highlighting the neon line. Neon is a part of our culture. We all know this. I'm so excited for this to continue to be built out, and it's something that we can really tell a story about that's unique to our destination. Our neon has so much history here, and it's really becoming popular in pop culture right now, and so we really wanted to take advantage of that. So took all those images and integrated them into our new campaign. You guys all heard me back in May, I believe. We talked about we launched the Recharge campaign. Well, now we have some new imagery to mix in with that. And so I just wanted to share with you our latest 30-second spot here running this winter. Then I also just wanted to share our fall 15 seconds slide. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Here are just some of our display ads. I'll run through them. They're all dynamic. You'll see we're keeping that neon, the reveal, using words that start with RE that eventually reveal our logo, Reno Tahoe. It's all about, re-engaging with our community. Again, this is our recovery campaign that will run through this next fiscal year. Some of our fall and winter social ads, integrating some of those neon light flares. Quickly, I just wanted to touch on our winter media plan. Here's a quick breakdown of where we are spending some of our dollars. You can't really see it, but I just wanted to highlight that. Whoopsies, there we go. New this season, we are on podcasts right now. We are leveraging host read spots on podcasts. So when you're listening to your podcast, we made sure that we are only aligning with podcasts where the host would read about our destination. Again, it all goes back to those peer reviews. We want it to be authentic, and we don't want to produce a spot that's just integrated and gets lost in the clutter of people, when you're listening to a podcast and you hear an ad, you know it's an ad. When you hear the host actually talking about the destination, this is someone that these listeners are actively engaged with. It's someone they trust, so we wanted to make sure that the host would read our ad themselves, partnering with those podcasts. We're also doing some high impact display, and then of course we always do custom content and site direct. We're doing a big partnership with Outside Magazine right now, which is getting additional reach on Backpacker and Ski, which are other entities they own. And then last week we just wrapped up a shoot with the Matador Network. I'm super excited to share that one with you guys. It's going to be artsy and really creative, and has a lot of neon elements to it. On a meetings and convention side, We are leveraging digital buys here as well. Just here's some of our featured partners on where we are advertising. Also, we are working with on social media, targeting job titles, making sure we are getting the right content in front of the right people. Just wanted to, whoops, sorry, this clicker has a delayed reaction. Here's some of our messaging that we just want to make it clear that we have incentive programs, we are open for business. And then I just want to share some of our creative. Again, we're back together again. Here's some incentives you can check out. Sports creative, we just recently refreshed with this bright color palette to grab attention. If you look at sports ads for all these destinations, they pretty much all look the same. They're all of a baseball field or something very generic. And we really wanted to highlight our venues without looking like every other ad. So we really wanted to brighten this up. And on the left-hand side, one of the key takeaways we got from the cab that we had a few months ago was that they really wanted to see actual events hosted in our facilities. And so like when US Climbing came, we wanted to make sure we got down in our convention center, captured that, and then we put that right in an ad. Okay, influencer activations. Just before the pandemic hit, we hosted a group of influencers who had a combined following of more than 3.4 million. And right as we were about to launch this video, of course, the pandemic hit and we had to pause it. The whole premise of this video, this was shot pre-COVID, so you'll see them traveling through the airport with no masks on. This was, it's really brief, but it was highlighted pre-COVID. That was the point of this video, was to highlight how easy it is to travel here with your winter gear, whether it's your skis, your snowshoes. You get off the plane, the close proximity to the mountains. You can just immediately go up there, enjoy a day's adventure, and then how close it is to come back down into town and enjoy the nightlife, do some gambling, check out our art scene. So I just wanted to play this for you now, which we have to X out of here because it is a 2-minute video, and our IT team will pull that up here momentarily. But we just started sharing it this past week across our social channels, and everyone will be sharing it. We have, I think, like contract posts for the next couple months. just want to say a shout out, a thank you to Shannon and her team at the Grand Sierra for hosting everyone. They hosted the whole team, crew, all these activities, set it all up, and I really am appreciative of that. We all know we switch through, we rotate through every hotel property, making sure that everyone gets equal highlight, but this one was a partnership with the Grand Sierra who hosted them for this particular one. So the way that the PowerPoint works, I'm just going to leave it out and just talk about this next video real quick, and then we'll pop back into the PowerPoint just for some IT smoothness. So the next video I'm going to show you was a partnership with this man named Corey Waltering. He is an athlete with the North Face. He's an LGBTQ advocate. He is an ultra runner, and we partnered with him and the Matador Network to really highlight the walkability of our destination, more so the runability since he's an ultra runner, but just how close everything is in actual proximity from the outdoors to downtown to midtown, how friendly our streets are to go and run around, and also to highlight the arts and culture community, which he is a huge advocate for. If we can play that.
My name is Corey Waltering, and I'm a professional trail and ultra runner for the North Face. Reno is really awesome because the trail systems will literally take you anywhere you need to be. Let's go explore Reno. Running is a great way to explore a new city or a new place just because you'll see things that most people wouldn't see. When you're in a car and just driving by, you're going by so quickly that you don't really have time to actually look and, see what's going on. Downtown Reno actually has a great culture and art scene. There is the Art Museum, which is the only accredited art museum in the state of Nevada. If you take the time to look around, you'll find that there's way more to Reno than just city lights and gambling. Alright, I'm out here in the middle of the river. Let's see what happens. Woo! That wasn't so bad. After you finish running in Reno, you can be right downtown, and there are great restaurants that are overlooking the river. Shmee's Fish Bar is a great place to stop. After dinner, you can stop by Black Rock Dessert, and you can get just a crazy, giant milkshake with all kinds of chocolate and goodies on it. I find that Reno is very open, and it's go with whatever your heart desires. You know what? Since I'm here, let's go do this. I didn't realize this would be such a hard decision.
He got a piercing while we were shooting this video.
Woo! For training, I like to drink beer and go run really far in the mountains, sometimes at the same time. I love the cocktail scene in Reno. My favorite being the Chapel Tavern. If I had to sum up Reno in a word, I would say vibrant. I love seeing other people out there and just feeding off of their energy. It's kind of a pretty hoppin' place right now. I'm Corey. It's been great, Reno. See you next time.
So yeah, we'll get back in the PowerPoint. But yeah, that ran on his social channels, Matador Network social channels, their website, in addition to ours. When we do content partnerships with these companies, we always like pulling in, again, instead of a traditional average talent, we want to pull in an influencer, someone who is known in their communities. He is a known ultramarathon runner he's been on TV for it. He is someone that is respected, and he also has 21,000 followers on social media, and those are some of the posts he did, junkie and then just running in downtown Reno. Next up, we have made some personalization updates to our website with Noble Studios. When you visit our website, we are tracking you just like everyone else out there. When you visit 2 or more pages, you will actually, based on your browsing history, get assigned a persona. And so we will then start recommending you content that we think you would like, whether that's highlighting it in the navigational menu. We'll serve up new content blocks for you as you're scrolling through. So when you're on our website, if you start getting a lot of content that's really directed towards you, we know. So here at the bottom are just some of the categories that you might fall under while you're browsing the website. Here's just a few of the examples. The one on the left is one with hotels, to make sure that if you are looking at hotels that we're always putting that information right in front of you. On the right is some outdoor adventure. And next up, I just want to say I'm so proud of the marketing team. You know, our staff and budgets may not be back to the pre-pandemic level, but everyone is working overtime and working so hard and still cranking out award-winning work. This is just from the past 6 months here with the team has been awarded and that they've just been working to the highest of standards. And next up, I'm going to bring up Ben McDonald, our Director of Communications, and we'll take questions after he is done. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Ben McDonald, Director of Communications. So on the public relations front, so far this fiscal year, generated a lot of positive coverage. In October, Today.com covered the region as one of the best destinations for families with teenagers. So reaching that parent, adult demographic, as well as catering to the activities for kids and teens. Thrillist covered the balloon races as well as the rest of the destination in September. Fedora's Travel in August covered the Riverwalk as one of the best in the country. And USA Today in July highlighted the destination as a great jumping off point for mountain adventures. So we're getting a lot of indoor as well as outdoor coverage on the earned media segment. We've placed 46 proactive placements so far this through October. And that does not include any of the local coverage that we do from a community relations standpoint. And our potential reach right now, we're on pace for the 1.3 billion goal for this fiscal year, potential reach of 619 million. That's UVM, monthly visitors to websites that we hit, as well as circulation in print publications. Got me. All right, so media visits, obviously the most impactful way that we can bring people to the destination, just like influencers. We want to bring travel media here because that helps tell our story. They live the destination, they get to experience the destination, and at that point, it's basically just opening the door for them to new experiences as opposed to telling them exactly what we're all about. We can bring them around to all the, so many of our stakeholders who are in the room today, whether it's the museum, regional hotel properties, ACES, Greater Nevada Field, and let them feel what locals feel, because that's what journalists want to do when they come to the destination, is what people who live here love to enjoy doing on a daily basis. We are still having some challenges. We typically get 20 to 25 media through in a typical year. We're only at 6 to date, and that does definitely, we're still seeing some of the impacts of COVID and some hesitation to travel. So I'm hoping the second half of the fiscal year will be much more successful as far as getting people to travel. 3 of the visits that we had came during our media fam during October. Chloe Caldwell was one of the writers that came, and her story posted pretty soon after they left in early October to Uprocks. That article was shared out a few times as well, generating about 10.5 million in potential reach, covering Lake Tahoe, Virginia City, areas around Sparks, and also some of the special events, Offbeat Music Festival, and the Biggest Little Craft Invitational. The next FAM that we have coming up, we have 2 confirmed journalists right now, hoping to get 2 or 3 more, and that'll happen in February or March. The timing's getting good. It'll be a ski FAM, so we're looking forward to that as well. Just like the Recycle with Reno Tahoe contest that we earned that Best in Public Relations Awards with, that Christina noted, contest is a great way to get some free coverage and generate a lot of exposure for our destination, and also create engagement with people who might want to visit. For this contest, we got 10 media placements, which is actually a really good amount when you consider the types of publications that we were in. We garnered 5,000 entries. So that's 5,000 people that said, hey, I want to come to your area. Basically, the giveaway was come to Reno Tahoe, check out the Perseid meteor shower in one of the dark sky sanctuaries, one of the darkest places on the planet, and we'll put you up for a couple nights in Reno Tahoe, and you can explore the destination, not just for the meteor shower, but also everything else that the destination has to offer. And our reach on that through syndication was a potential reach of 200 million. So this was a really successful campaign. We'll definitely be submitting this one for an award as well here in the next few months. And then on the communications standpoint, we continue with our emails. We have daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly emails going out on a consistent basis. The weekly consumer email is the longest running. We ship that out every week to a list of about 61,000 subscribers, and that's consumers, leisure travelers. A lot of success there over the years. Meetings and Conventions newsletter goes out to over 11,000 meetings and events planners across the country. We've sent that out in July, September, and November so far this year. Travel trade, we hit about 1,700 tour operators and travel agents across the country. We sent that out in July and October of this year. And then the sports segment, sports events planners, closing in on 700, still trying to add to that list for sports events. It's a smaller segment, but very important for our destination. We know that's gone out in September. We have another one coming up this month. And then our local dailies, hopefully the board is receiving their daily updates, and that goes out to the staff as well. And then we have a list of about 400 plus and growing local community leaders and business leaders that we send out our weekly updates that cover primarily what's going on in the destination, what's going on nationally with the travel industry, and what we're doing specifically at RSCVA. And of course, we're always using that to promote air service. Our local emails, we're promoting outbound as well as inbound, trying to make sure that we're supporting both ends of the air service here in our destination. And we've also distributed 14 press releases as of yesterday. Hopefully you guys received that as we open the application process for our special event funding program. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McDonald, Ms. Herney, thank you very much. Do appreciate that, the update. In the essence of time, is there questions for Ms. Herney or Mr. McDonald in regard to the marketing update? Mr. Chapman, I see you there.
Yeah,
Mr.
great.
Chapman.
Thank you, and great update. Really appreciate that. A question on the media and creative. Do you have a flow chart that would show where the media is running and what creative would be attached with that you can share with the board? And also ask if you could share the deck, because that's a great deck to kind of look at a little bit further.
Yeah, there's a lot of information in there, and I have a lot more that I could have, but I just wanted to keep it concise for this meeting. But yes, I can absolutely share where in the creative that we're running in those time frames.
Great. Yep. And then the target markets that we're going after this winter, could you touch on that? And have they adjusted at all compared to, say, 2 winters ago, call it, in 2019?
I'd do the math there. What year was that? Pre-pandemic or not?
Yeah,
'Cause
pre-pandemic.
It's all, thank you. Yeah, so we have become more focused on the West Coast, western region of the United States, I would say, just all up and down. You know, we have changed, I can get into our whole media strategy. So we have changed our targeting differently from a couple of years ago. We were targeting specific cities. So we were in the Bay Area specifically, LA specifically, Seattle specifically. We've changed our strategy to more of a radius approach where we're doing heavy ups in some of our key target markets, but it's actually split maybe, I would say about 50% is the heavy up and 50% is that radius approach. So we're going after the persona versus the geolocation now. So we're looking at what is their income, where are they located. They don't actually have to be in those cities, especially over the past couple of years as people are relocating, they're traveling a lot, they're not in their home city, especially during the pandemic. The big ones like San Francisco, you know, everyone was traveling. So we wanted to really shift that from a geolocation to a persona location. And we are doing we do have a national buy as well. It's not only the West Coast, but the most of it is West Coast targeted, Western region of the United States, and then we do have some that is national, and then heavy ups in some of our key flight markets.
Great.
Where we have nonstop.
And if I can, one quick question from Mr. McDonald as well. As it relates to the ski fam, and I've probably mentioned this before and probably will continue, you know, as we talk to that media that's coming to Tahoe, we'd really like the opportunity to align with you and the messaging. Obviously, there's some significant issues going on around the Tahoe Basin with impacts and traffic and everything. We hope we have a busy winter. With the snowstorm hopefully coming in this rest of this week will help with that. But if we have that opportunity to work with you from a destination messaging standpoint to get some of the responsible travel and stewardship messages to the media would be appreciated and helpful. So.
Absolutely. absolutely. And I'll reach out to you and of course Jamie, representing you guys. And then of course, you know, when it comes to ski travel, we know how busy it is up at the lake. And so we do try to do some events with some of those hotel properties in Washoe County up at North Lake. But we're also talking a lot about kind of staying in the Reno Sparks area and using that as your jumping off point, depending on availability of hotel rooms.
Sure. Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments for Ms. Ernie? Ms. Ernie, I do have a couple comments. You know, based upon the discussions that you brought forward, and the videos are fantastic. Obviously, I think our media outreach and how we've evolved that post-pandemic is phenomenal. However, it seems to be the outreach seems to be identical for the consumer. And it's identified obviously through our demographics and the feedback which you've provided to us earlier. But from a standpoint, when I sit back and look at this, you know, there are different age groups, different types of individuals of all walks that participate in special events here, travel here, do different things. For example, as much as we focus on the outdoor events, but a hot August nights or a nice, you know, somebody of an older crowd, when you look at different things, younger kids, families, you know, different. Do we have that type of utilizing the same branding, but utilizing different kind of the messaging just that curtails itself a little bit more to a family, an older couple, a younger individual? Does it have male, female? Do we have some more targeted branding like that?
We do. So one of our key audiences that we're actually going targeting moving forward is that family audience, that mindful mom. They are an ambitious family. They're one who wants to travel with their family. They like doing a lot of things while they're here. And we do have, I just didn't show it today, but we recently just shot this past month an incredible family video. We had 4 families that were experiencing the destination, and we're seeing some really high conversion rates on those. I think families are moving forward. And next, I just want to touch on that, you know, I'm not planning on going back to normal. There is no going back to the normal pre-pandemic. You know, we're all in the new normal. And so that's why it's really important, I feel, that we get out there and do some research and position how we want to move forward, not where we were, and what new audiences do we need to go after. One of the things that we're looking at in the strategic plan is who is our audience of the future, and really using research to identify that. But to your point, we do have segmented content, whether it's imagery and video, with a variety of age groups. This is just the majority, but depending on the activity, to your point, if it's a event that typically attracts an older crowd, we do have images that we will use around that promotion,
right.
And then family as well. I just didn't show all of it
Gotcha.
today.
Okay, so that was, and I guess
it'll be a very long presentation.
No, understood. Thank you. I appreciate that. The other thing, I guess, which leads me to my next point, is that for those of us that have been traveling for the last year and a half, we've seen what we like to call, Mr. Harris and I have had this conversation, what is aggressive tourism, right? We've seen it in every market that we've gone to is aggressive tourism. We've seen ADRs and everything of those natures, flights. The only thing that didn't go up in price was probably flights in the last 12 to 24 months, but everything else did. And when we see that aggressive tourism, I think you're right. I think what we're seeing is individuals that are lost because for the first time they're either having an excess of income because they sat at home for 12 months and they sat on money that they didn't spend, whether that was going out to dinner or on kids' sports or whatever that may be. They're now utilizing that to travel, but they're not traveling necessarily to Dubai, or they're not traveling to South America. They're traveling to a closer drivable market, a close flyable market, something that's facilitated because if they have, as we pointed out, a family, you have young children on a flight, as a father, it's difficult to travel with young children and masks and different things of that nature. So are we curtailing that message as well? I mean, you talked about the ease of access for Reno. With that, I think that we need to do all that we can to message how to not only get to Reno, what we can do in Reno, but this is not only for the leisure travel, but this is also, and I'm looking at Mr. Largara, thank God he's sitting right next to you, but this is also for our convention space as well.
finding that convention space and making sure, because we saw it in Paul's presentation this morning, is that some of the areas of which we fell short on were sports, health and safety, and some concerns there. And so, not all of which the RSCVA can make changes to, however, but we can message it properly that those individuals feel comfortable, that they're coming to a safe place, that they feel that they can get here quickly, easily access. They can get to a rental car. They can travel through our airport without much challenges. They can get to a clean hotel room within 5 minutes. So that's really the messaging, I think, because coming from NFR this last weekend in Las Vegas, watching the Pac-12 game, you saw Utah fans and Oregon fans travel in massive amounts. Now, obviously, they were traveling for a sports team. However, they were traveling in families. NFR, the same thing. The convention space that was down there this weekend was gigantic. And obviously Las Vegas is Las Vegas, not in Reno. We are different markets. But however, we are same and identical in how we entice individuals to our community because we offer very much the same experience. So I guess my point is that based upon the information that was provided to us and what you're targeting, I'd like to see kind of that marketing plan move in that direction in regards to that ease of access, accessibility, so those are my comments. I think Ben, and I think your outreach has been tremendous. I think that what you've done with the outreach through the pandemic and keeping us informed has been fantastic. Mr. Jimenez, your team as well. I think our team has done a great job continuing to message, and Mr. Larrigetto, I include you in that. So I thank you all of you, for all the work that you've done to keep that message alive. Our properties are still thriving, and I think our community, and now we just got to take that next step, which is getting the providers here into this building and into our down, and trying to evolve those sports programs and different things like that. So, thank you. Yes, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. And Christina, great presentation. And Ben, one of the things that is not being talked about, and because you can't talk about it yet, but when you talk about family, Mr. Chair, one of the things that Christina's talking to is probably one of the most influential families in the United States right now that we're talking about bringing to Reno. And they have more than 5 and 6 million people in their community under one channel. We're negotiating for that will send that message specifically that you're talking about, that we've never had that opportunity. So kudos to Christina. She's jumped on that. What you saw is a retracted or a shortened version of everything that they're working on. So certainly families and everything is important. I'd also like to comment in and around the meetings and conventions. Certainly we rely on the Customer Advisory Board for direction. Mr. Griffin has joined us here in the back, and I had the pleasure of going with him to Southwest Airlines with Carol Chaplin and Mike Kazmierski, working to get that meeting and convention visitor here. And lift is certainly important, and kudos to Darren and the entire team at the airport for asking for those additional flights. And so what we're focused on is additional flights from key markets and certainly long haul, which will help set us up for those meetings and conventions that need to come here. And that's part of that positioning that we're doing in order to drive the business that we need here.
Great, and I think that's exactly what we need to do is as we've talked about today, and I think it was kind of the context of today, is to create those strategic plans, not only for this board and this organization, but a strategic plan for anybody. It's kind of their little roadmap to Reno, their roadmap to Tahoe, their roadmap to Sparks. That is their intent, and I think that's important. So I think that's a great movement. Mr. Murdoch. You got to slide your switch there.
Thank you. A couple questions. I appreciate all the social media and the outreach. And I would ask it as casinos that we still do have, no matter what we say, we still own the gaming in this city. Is there any influencers that like being millionaires or winning money that you could get to influence people to travel because they win in Reno? Secondly, because we've been in a COVID lockdown in California and some of our feeder markets, Reno was still open. We have developed so many new, younger customers that you would be amazed at that play the electronic games. I mean, you're just seeing them. I'm just looking at any angle to get anybody to Reno. And I've seen it because they were pent up. They couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't go to California. They couldn't go on a vacation because of the COVID. But they came into the casinos. They couldn't go to the movie theater, so they learned. They learned to play the videos they're playing. Just something to think about. Just another added benefit to what we do here to drive our business to the casinos. Also, the entertainment world. we do such a wonderful job. You guys do have an entertainment page. The Nugget has great entertainment, GSR. We had a big event last weekend. 7,000 people came to see the ventriloquist. It's such an opportunity for Reno to have that little snug bug of entertainment, and Tahoe has it too as well. So we've got a great opportunity and get some influencers on entertainment and do some FAMs, gaming FAMs. How about we become a millionaire maker city? Come here and you never know what. You can ski one day and be a millionaire the next. Time to kind of, we are what we are. It said there that we're a used city, a kind of like a soft slipper that fits everybody's foot. So hopefully we could get a little more into that as well. It helps us.
Yep, absolutely. And with that, I hope you saw the Paradise crew who did that, who came and highlighted our flights and flying in. They have come now twice, and gaming has been a key part of their trip here. It's the six influencers who come, and they love gaming while they're here. So we feature it in the videos, we feature it in our 30-second ad. It is definitely a part of it, and it's top of mind, absolutely. It's part of that story. I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Okay. Member Safraza.
Yeah, and Chairman Lucy, and I'm sorry I was late. We had just finished our airport meeting.
Can you turn your mic on? Make sure your mic on. And you got to pull them close to you so we can hear you, unfortunately.
Sorry that I was late. We had our airport board meeting today and a lot of exciting things on the agenda. Just to follow up on the question you asked with marketing and the family, and I do follow social media and think you guys do a tremendous job. Just the assets that we have, though, like bowling. I mean, we have a national bowling stadium here in Reno. It's not really in any of the marketing material. Discovery Museum, a National Automobile Museum. We have a lot of national things here, and I don't know how that incorporates into the branding, but I think that's important. Again, getting back to what you said about that family friendly, but I think that being inclusive in how we market the destination, and again, Vegas, and you brought that up, they've really interesting to see them diversify even from Sin City to a sports destination. I mean, it's massive, and I think the vision down there of the RSCVA and how they put that into place with not just their master plan, but their land use plan around those facilities, as you had mentioned, is critical as we're moving forward in even how we market the region. So.
Well, and
I don't know if we're looking at those things, but.
And to your point, Ms. Safraza, too, I know that the team is looking at that, and they have been focused on those issues in regards to, because it's something that I have spoken directly to Mr. Harris and Ms. Ernie about in regards to, making sure that our properties are highlighted in all of our outreach. But I think the other thing we need to talk about, too, from my experience in Las Vegas as well this weekend, that's something that I took home with me, is that, for example, MGM Park is a non-smoking gaming hotel. However, we've got not only non-smoking hotels in the Whitney Peak, we've got non-gaming hotels. We've got a lot of corporate chain hotels that Las Vegas doesn't have that are very quite in walkable distance to all of our districts. And I think we see that also at the lake in regards to some of those properties at the lake. I think those things need to be incorporated too as we talk about health and safety, not about, not just you can bring a family here that if they're, allergic to smoke and they don't want to be around gaming, sorry Rick, but they can come and experience Reno without having to be, included in that, right? They can do a number of things. This is kind of, as you said, the catch-all for everyone, right? So, Mr. Murdoch, yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Great points. And Jess, thank you. When you do host the bowlers, the women did come during COVID. What destination got supported but Reno, Nevada? I'm saying we host when the male bowlers do come, and women are a part of the males tournament too, so it's open to both. It's the biggest convention, one of the biggest conventions in the world. We should be shouting that. We host one of the biggest conventions in the world, the Bowling Congress. I mean, we do. And we've got a women's event that's 20,000 women. So I think those are important. But also, you brought up a good deal, tying back to the University of Nevada, because people travel. We're a great city for sports travel, especially when Nevada plays somebody good or has a tournament. This is such an opportunity. Or if we did anything at, Eric's beautiful stadium downtown, to use the Aces. And I think it's really important that we incorporate the sports aspect too of the university, because we've got a new president up there that's very bullish on Reno. Tahoe, he is. He wants to support. So how can we support him? And we should be hosting a big Maui Classic in Reno, Nevada, sponsored by the RSCVA. We should be doing these things. This is such an opportunity, such a good crowd to draw to Reno.
Councilman Bybee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Loved everything about your presentation, both of you. It's exciting to kind of get excited about moving forward. Lots of creativity. Love the color, the energy, the messaging, the recharge message. What I do have a question. As we looked at and we've talked about the community, and when I went to Destinations International, really that message of our connection to the community, and that the community doesn't really know maybe who we are and what we do, and yet they can be our biggest ambassador to promoting the region, to friends, to businesses, to that community connection that we're kind of hopefully striving for. Are we looking at, in the marketing that you're doing, PR and marketing, are we looking at locals? I know at DI they had like presentations, and they were local stories, and they were storytellers that were local, the voice of someone local telling the story of this community to people who've never been here, can be really powerful. Like the one promotion on the Fearless Females was like awesome to see, highlighting, but even just average people, not necessarily high profile, telling those stories that I think that moves people, and especially when they're looking at destinations for purposeful travel, for whether they're coming here for yoga and skiing or whatever they're coming here for. I think when you touch someone with those personal stories that you're so passionate about, it touches people and moves them emotionally to come. And are we looking at adding that as we're looking at our strategic plan on your PR and marketing? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlene. Yes, we are. It is definitely someplace where we can grow and continue to prioritize. But just last week with Matador Network in town, we actually interviewed one of the neon artists, one of 3 neon artists here in town. And we went to his house, and he let us in, and we went through, and he talked about making neon and what it means to our community and the neon line. So we really, yes, to answer your question, those are more of those content pieces that are a little longer form than our 30-second ad, because then you can really get that story. And that's where we can also highlight some of those families and the museums and all that, is really talk about that encompassing messaging is really in those content pieces. That's why in all of our media buys, content is huge for us. It's one of our best performers, just because we're not going to get them here with just one imagery. To your guys' point, there's so much here to talk about in our destination that we really prioritize those content buys so we can actually go through and talk about all that there is to offer here and highlight those imageries and highlight those stories. But yes, that is something we're going to continue to expand upon.
If I could just make a comment, Ann Silver, for the record, not so much a question, but I do want to say, Christina, great job. As Charlene said, you can't help but get sort of pumped up with the color and the vibrancy and everything in those videos. I want to mention we had a very successful event yesterday about the business of sports, and I think there's a way to integrate, whether it's the AAA baseball team or it's the new ice rink, there are ways to really encourage not only skiing and the things that we normally think about, but the amazing sports-oriented culture that we have here, and it shouldn't intimidate a 60-year-old or a 12-year-old. The fact that you can come here and take a quick flight to see a Raiders game or to see the Golden Knights, or you can in fact go to our local ice rink, or you can go to the Aces Stadium not only for baseball but for concerts. That there was one this summer that just absolutely sold out. So I think that combines family, it combines sports, it combines use of our venues. Next summer we'll have baseball here at the convention center with 75 basketball teams. You know, we had the NBA commissioner here yesterday. I think there are ways to integrate a lot of things that we all take for granted and we work on and we plan and put them into all of this. So Christina, you've done a marvelous job, Ben as well. I just think we all have things to offer that you'll then figure out how to incorporate in your videos and in your marketing work. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I think, like I said, the comments very, very productive this morning. And Ms. Ernie, Mr. McDonald, thank you for all your work that you've done on this. Thank you for that marketing update. Seeing nothing forward, this is not for action this morning, so we'll just move on this morning. Take us, in the essence of time, is that we're on to item H. This is the board member comments regarding items for future meetings. So I'm going to open it up to the board. Is there any discussion for items for future meetings? I do have a couple things I'd like Mr. Harris be put. Obviously, we will bring back for all those that were intended, so I apologize today. This was a mismanagement on my account in regards to the timing of this. However, I think we did get a lot of information this morning from Destination Next, and we'll come back and we'll make sure that those decks are available not only to the board but also to the general public that want to, so we can chew that information up and be prepared for that next meeting to really come and have that interactive discussion. I'd also like at our very next meeting, Mr. Harris, is an update on the operations plan for the changeover from SMG or ASM now, I'm sorry. I keep saying SMG. ASM over to, based upon the motion from the board last, I really want to look at a facilities plan. What's the structure of that? Discussion on change dates with ASM. What are we looking at? And then based upon, and this is more for Paul and your team, based upon the challenges that you've gotten from the questionnaire, if you could provide the board a little bit more context in regards to some of the results, from the destination alignment, the health and safety concerns, the sporting events issues, transportation. A lot of that stuff might not be issues that this board may be able to directly impact. However, the board members that do sit here can do that with their alternative boards in our position. So if we could get a little bit more context, detail, at least for this board, in regards to some of those questionnaire answers, that would help us be prepared a little bit more also for our next meeting where we have that discussion as it pertains to transportation and those types of issues. So I'd like to see that if we could get that deck and then that explanation from you and your team. And then, we talk about the strategic plan, Mr. Harris. I want to look also, again, reinvest into what is the next mission based upon Destination Next, the questionnaire, kind of your interpretation of what that mission would look like based upon those results. So that's something I'd like to chew up next time when we have that for the next meeting, when we have the actual retreat to address this. I think from my standpoint, this would be two separate meetings, our board meeting to address policy, but I really do want to make the next time that we meet an interactive, more of an interactive with the public and a different forum. So if we can discuss that would be great. So those are my comments. Any other comments from the board members in regards to future meeting discussion? Ms. Keel.
Just curious, have we ever done a study of what other markets, whether it's our target markets, regional, national, how individuals feel about Reno and how Reno is perceived by others? Because obviously that would be helpful for marketing initiatives and strategic planning.
Yeah, and I know Ms. Ernie, so if you can get that information from Ms. Keel, that way we can, I know you've done it, so if we can get that information to her or maybe even reinvest in that'd be great. Ms. Safraz, I saw your hand.
To follow up on the operations plan, I'm hoping that comes in our January meeting. I'm just concerned, quite frankly. I mean, just to get food vendors for these facilities, and we're tick, and we've got these facilities, and as we're trying to bring in new conventions, I think we got to see that operational plan. And then just the second thing, just dusting off our, the old strategic plan here, which I read, the 5-year plan, it seems like the same issues are common themes. The surrounding area around this facility, surrounding area around the downtown facilities. This organization, along with the RTC, I think the city, did, Urban Land Institute was here doing the Virginia Street study, and it was phenomenal, and it really goes to actually the strategic plan too of this organization of some of those recommendations. And as you see, the connectivity all the way from the university to this great facility we're sitting in here today, I think we should look at that and maybe looking at too some of the best practices, RSCVA, what they did. I think it's two different issues. I think the land plan is very important along with our marketing plan. And I don't think this board, in looking, I've gone through past documents, have ever really had that land plan, which is really important. I know the city has the master plan with the convention tourism overlay, but I drove around with the CEO. There's things maybe that can be changed even in zoning, different uses, categories, things like that, that could really enhance what we're trying to do here as a region on certain types of uses or intensification of development around these facilities. And then the last thing, not to put our CEO from the airport on the spot, we had a massive agenda where we had approved several huge items for the future of the airport, and it might be just great to have maybe a 10-minute presentation from him to this body next agenda, because that it goes directly hand in hand on the airport and tourism. And there's amazing, exciting things. And in fact, we just adopted a land plan this morning over at the airport. So would love for this board to see all of that.
I agree. Thank you, Ms. Fraza. And then the last thing I would say is, in addition to that, I would ask that NDOT also participate, because they play such a major role in the interchange and though that reconstruction of the Spaghetti Bowl and our future plans for transportation in this community. That is the lifeblood to and from the airport and to our downtown areas. I think it's important to have kind of that, from Mr. Fraza's point, that structure as well, so that we can build off of that, because strategic plans are so much are so inclusive of that whole greater picture, right? It's not an ideology, more of a true mission plus an execution of that mission. So it's interesting. It would be interesting to have that dedicated data as well. All right. Seeing nothing further from any of the board members, Madam Mayor.
Let me just chime in.
You want
Because I think
turn you?
is that working?
Yeah, you got it. Now it is.
Yeah, good. Well, I think it's really important. I think you guys know I'm probably a broken record whenever it comes to the bowling stadium and getting a whole marketing group together. Bob, we've talked about this in great length for years and years and years. And then when we talked about, you talked about sustainability tourism. You guys, we have one of the best assets we could possibly have, and that is the Truckee River when you talk about sustainable tourism. But also I want to remind everyone, even if your property is not in downtown Reno, heads up everyone, your visitors are coming into downtown. Like, I'm sure you can attest to this, that when people go to a destination, whether they stay 5 miles away or 30 miles away up the lake, they want to see the downtown. You better get your downtown in line. I mean, I think we have a lot of work to do, and you're shaking your head knowing that this is very true, because why? They want to see sort of the arts and culture and flavor of a city. Where is that? It's in your downtown core. So I feel like sometimes downtown does get really slighted. And again, we've got the river there. We've got the largest climbing wall in the country there, right in the middle of a gaming hub. A great arts and arts. We've worked really hard on getting all these murals and the space whale and things. And it's so funny because that whale is in like every single advertisement, and people love it. And it's got a great story. And now, I mean, I don't know if you guys have been to the plaza, but we just rolled out a skateboarding initiative thanks to Doug at the city. It's so cool because skateboarding has always had this sort of like cool vibe, gritty, punk, and it's so interesting that visitors are coming to the plaza and they're like, this is so badass. and I'm learning all these terminologies that they use, but it's really funny where they're gravitating there. And let me tell you, the skateboarders have actually like taken the plaza and made it sort of their own, and pride, and keeping it clean and talking to everyone around there. Remember, I mean, we were down there and people were just like engaged, and a lot of cities are using like skateboarding parks and those kinds of things. I think Minneapolis just rolled out like something like 35 skate parks, and those are the kinds of things that people want to see. But I would tell you this, like, I think honestly we have to really think about our downtown. Sparks too. I was down at yours the other night. It was awesome. I mean, what you guys have done down there, you should be so proud. It's killer, Charlene. So I'm just, sometimes I just feel like downtown gets hosed, quite honestly. So anyway, go. Sorry.
No, that's great. And Madam Mayor, and I'm glad you brought that up, because just a quick story, really quick, and then we'll get out of here. I got a piece of mail, an advertisement for the Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation. My son grabbed it out of the mailbox, my 7-year-old son. And on the picture of that is the downtown Reno Arch that has shooting from the south facing north towards the university. It's got Whitney Peak, it's got everything. And he goes, "Dad, I've been there." And I said, "Yeah, you've been to the arch." He goes, No, the climbing wall. He was super excited. I mean, my 7-year-old son, we talk about family, he was excited that he'd climbed there on New Year's Eve and got to climb up the wall and experience something that no other kid could ever do, right? And it was not because no other kid couldn't do it. I mean, we have it open to everybody. Anybody can go to Whitney Peak and go climbing on the wall, and it's a neat thing. And when I took him to Jackson Hole, Wyoming last year, they have those little climbing parks in every one of their recreation, because climbing and outdoor sports is a big part of their community. I've been to Jackson Hole. I've seen their outreach. It's fantastic. But they've really built their community around their destination and their tourism, right? And Reno and Sparks have done the same thing. And so has Tahoe. We've embraced our tourism, but what we haven't done is connected the government piece to the tourism piece, and really tried to allocate or cohesively work together on funding and I think the mayors and the councils have done a great job in with Space Whale and their downtowns and all these different things, but we think we need to functionally work together as a region. That's why we all sit on this board. And so those are the types of discussions I want to have in a strategic plan meeting. And so hopefully, Paul, we can have that kind of focus going forward in the next meeting. So, yes, Madam Mayor. Now you're on.
Okay. When we talk about sustainable tourism, and like I was saying, I think one of our best assets is the Truckee River. I'd like to know what you think our role should be in sort of evolving that with the economic development piece, because I see it where we should be putting some infrastructure there for running, biking, lights, amenities for tourism and our community, where I think there's a role for all of us to play, whether it's the county, the city of Reno, even the city of Sparks, because it's all connected. But I'd like, from your standpoint, to know how much do you think the RSCVA should, help with that lift?
Yeah, I do think. Is this on now? Is that on now? Yeah. I do think that the river is a tremendous asset that you should be, continuing to leverage. I mean, I think there have been improvements. Every city that has a river, that's a big opportunity for development, not just on the tourism side, but residential, commercial. One city that has done a good job that had a river that wasn't that well known before was Indianapolis. They have the White River, and they did, and it was really led by Visit Indy to basically bring everyone together. This was total support of the city, the county, all of the different players, to really do a very aggressive development plan for the White River. And they've activated a significant part of it. They've brought in architects, environmental architects, to design walking trails, biking trails. It's got some quiet areas, some action, activity zones. It's really, really well done. That'd be a good one to look at specifically.
I even think leveraging brands. We have Patagonia here, and they are
Yeah.
so engaged in sustainability. It's our drinking water as well. So I think we, Carolyn Goodman and I always fight about that. She's like, if I had one thing, I would want your river, and we've got it, and we should be utilizing it and leveraging that.
So one thing we've noticed talking to stakeholders here and visiting downtown is downtown's an unbelievable footprint in terms of the walkability and the river. It's such an amazing canvas. So one, to really understand that, and then to activate the river and activate experiences. But when we talk about sustainability and tourism, and we talk with the universities and we talk with other cities, it's really this idea of getting people out of cars, getting people on the streets, engaging with each other, meeting, creating that compression of energy and movement that makes the downtown alive, and that then becomes a catalyst for economic and community development. So where the role of the DMO would be to advocate for that, bring case studies for that, and then this is where we talk about destination alignment, talking to community organizations, talking with EDON, talking with you, and say, okay, here, we need a master plan for downtown that visitors are very much a part of that. That's outside economic activity coming in that can drive all of this, but really just connecting all those dots and thinking about sustainability and the long-term longevity of downtown and opportunities for people downtown in that sense.
Can I ask you one more question, because you guys are the experts again? Is there any talk about, I know this is going to lose people, but one of the things is like the metaverse, and talking about NFTs and how that works with tourism, because I think another thing, big leverage play there. You guys know I've been saying like esports. And so what are you hearing about that?
Right, so for those of you, everyone's probably heard about the metaverse in terms of what Facebook is doing, rebranding their parent company around the metaverse, and that includes all the energy and cryptocurrency and esports, and now we're hearing about NFTs. Marriott Resorts just dropped its first 3 NFTs at Art Basel in Miami like 5 days ago. You see the Dream Hotel group, you see Faena Hotel Group hosting now NFT events and artists who are selling that, and this whole move towards digital assets. But it's really this much bigger picture of how tourism is investing in the metaverse. I think at the very first stage of this, because this is a long-term, highly complex theme, is around virtual concerts, right? Travis Scott had a virtual concert last year for 12 million concurrent people, right? That can be monetized, that can be hosted in a facility like this. Plus it's Ariana Grande, it's John Legend, it just goes on and on. Bieber are having these huge events that can be monetized, that can be hosted in a hotel, a conference center. The other one is esports. You don't have to have a dedicated esports facility. 2 days ago, I talked to the planner behind Super Smash Brothers in San Jose. Just insane amount of growth, because it's really the focus and the monetization is from that global audience, but they're still bringing in 7,000-8,000 people that they haven't brought in before, so it's looking at new markets. Vegas is at the forefront of that. Arlington, DC, New York. Raleigh, the state of North Carolina, just created a $5 million incentive plan to attract esports because of all of these ancillary industries around that. So Reno can be at the heart of that. Absolutely.
So we've been talking about it. We just have never done it. Honestly, I think we get very paralyzed. I've been sitting on this board. Bob and I have been talking about this. I kind of also think we really need, and maybe you would know in other cities, do they have someone that is like, head of strategic new business, something like that? I just feel like, even with the bowling stadium, I've been saying we should be activating it. You brought it up. It's a national, you walk in there and you're like, wow. This is in Reno. There's so much we could leverage and do with it, but I don't know. I just feel like a lot of this too, and here we are with the strategic plan. We've been talking about this. I feel like I'm a little bit of a broken record. So maybe if you guys have some really good ideas, because I've really enjoyed your presentation. I thought it was really, really well done. But I don't know. I feel like we should be busy. I know Las Vegas is back. I know we're doing great things and numbers are looking good, but I just think that we have so much potential.
Well, I agree with the mayor, absolutely. And so I think, so we're not getting too far off track,
I know we agendized it earlier today, but I want to bring this back, and I think the mayor's comments are very prudent in the sense that we've been talking about this, so we would really like those topics to be brought back so we can really have a deep dive into those specifics. So, because I think that's really where we want to go with initiatives from this board, and have the feedback from your organization and the executive team to truly address those concerns. So I want to thank everybody for coming today. I do appreciate the I'm sorry, Ms. Bybee, do you? Okay. Seeing nothing further today, do we have any final public comment, Madam?
We have no public comment.
All right, seeing no further public comment, I want to thank everybody for coming today. Thank you for sitting with us. Have a wonderful, happy holiday, and we will see you next year.